All right, the Standing Committee on Indigenous and Northern Affairs is doing their. They're going to find out who their chair is, the leader of this committee. It's a standing committee, so it's always coming up, and it's pretty good. Check it
I
out.
see a quorum. I must inform members that the clerk of the committee can only receive motions for the election of the chair. Le greffier ne peut recevoir aucune autre motion. Il ne peut entendre des rappels au règlement ni participer au débat. We can to the election of the chair. Pursuant to Standing Order 1062, the chair must be a member of the government party. I am ready to receive motions for the chair.
I would like to move that Bob Britannia be the chair of the committee.
It has been moved by Jaime Batiste that Bob Britannia be elected chair of the committee. Are there any further motions for the election of chair? It has been moved by Jaime Batiste that Bob Britannia be elected as chair of the committee. Pursuant to the House Order of Wednesday, September 23rd, I will now proceed to a recorded division. Mr. Ananda-Sangari.
In favor.
Mr. Batiste.
In favor.
Mr. Britannia.
In favor.
Mr. Pawlowski. Mr. Pawlowski.
Were you saying something to me?
We are voting on a motion to elect Mr. Britannia as chair.
I vote for Bob Britannia as chair.
Mr. Van Couverden.
Vote in favor.
Ms. Zan.
In favor.
Ms. McLeod.
Support.
Mr. Melillo.
In favor.
Mr. Vidal.
In favor.
Mr. Viersen.
In favor.
Madame Berube.
En favor.
Ms. Blaney.
In favor.
I declare the motion carried and Bob Britannia duly elected chair of the committee. I invite Bob Britannia to take the chair.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks to the previous group of members. We had quite a remarkable, although truncated session. And I was really pleased with how we got along, and I'm encouraged by the new members who are joining us now. And thank you very much for showing your willingness to participate in what we think is a very vital committee with important work to do. My next order of business, and when will I get my act together here, is to hear nominations for the first vice chair of the committee. And the nomination will be by the Conservatives.
I nominate Kathy McLeod.
It has been moved by Mr. Vidal that Kathy McLeod be elected first vice chair of the committee. Are there any further motions for first vice chair?
You need a second for that? I'll second that motion.
It has been moved by Mr. Vidal that Kathy McLeod be elected first vice chair of the committee, conformément à l'ordre de la Chambre du mercredi le 23 septembre 2000.
Pursuant to the House Order of Wednesday, September 23rd, I will now proceed to a recorded division. Mr. Chair, someone was supposed to put forward my name as well.
Ça serait pour le deuxième vice.
This will be for the second vice president. We are doing the first right now.
Donc, motion for the election of first vice chair, Mr. Ananda-Sangari.
In favor.
Mr. Batiste, Mr. Batiste, I believe you are on
In
mute.
favor.
Thank you. Mr. Bertina is chair and does not vote. Mr. Pulaski,
In favor.
Mr. Van Couverden, Mr. Van Couverden,
In favor.
Ms. Zan,
In favor.
Ms. McLeod,
In favor.
Mr. Melillo,
In favor?
Mr. Vidal,
In favor.
Mr. Pearson,
In favor.
Madame Berube,
En favor.
Ms. Blaney,
In favor.
I declare the motion carried and Kathy McLeod duly elected first vice chair of the committee.
Thank you. Welcome, Kathy. Next, we have the election, and we require a nomination for second vice chair, member of the block. Gary and Sangari.
Monsieur Président, je voudrais
Mr. Chair, I'd like to propose Sylvie Berube as the second vice chair of our committee.
For second vice chair, Madame Berube.
Conformément à l'article
Pursuant to House Order of this person has to be from a party that's not from the official, not from the official opposition. It is moved that Ms. Berube be the chair, the second vice chair. Are there any other motions?
it has been moved that Sylvie Berube be elected as second vice chair of the committee. Pursuant to the House Order, I will now, of Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020, I will now proceed to a recorded division. Mr. Hernandez Sangari,
in favor. En favor.
Mr. Batiste,
In favor.
Mr. Bertina. Does not vote as he's chair. Mr. Pulaski,
In favor.
Mr. Van Couverden,
Je vote en faveur.
Ms. Zan,
In favor.
Ms. McLeod,
In favor.
Mr. Melillo,
In favor?
Mr. Vidal,
In favor.
Mr. Pearson,
Favor.
Mr. Pearson, I'm just going to ask you to repeat again.
In favor.
Thank you. Madame Berube,
En favor.
Ms. Blaney,
In favor.
je déclare la motion adoptée.
The motion has been approved. Ms. Berube is now the second vice chair of the committee.
Thank you very much, and welcome again, Madame Berube. I've had a request for a further nomination for a third vice chair, and I'll ask Mr. Van Couverden to make that nomination.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would like to nominate Ms. Mumalak Kakak as third vice chair. My motion.
So quick
If I may interrupt for
point
one
of-
moment, I would just like to confer with the chair one moment if we could suspend briefly.
And I did have a quick point of order. Perhaps this could be part of the conferring. I don't object, but I wonder if there is issues with standing orders and in terms of whether this can, if there's any standing orders, et cetera, that need changing in terms of proceeding. Thank you.
Mr. Clerk?
Sure, one moment. My advice to the committee at this time would be that this would be something that could be done at any other time, but that I would need to come back to the committee after doing some research as to whether or not that could be done in a formal way. As Ms. McLeod points out, the standing orders stipulate a number of vice chair positions for committees, and to my knowledge, Proc did not report back to the House on that.
Mr. Clerk, we've had some discussion leading up to this, and I'll ask Mr. Anandasangari to reflect on what we determined. Gary?
Yeah, Mr. Clerk, I think the understanding I have is that the committee is able to establish third vice chairs if it so pleases. The challenge, I think, is Board of Internal Economy does not have the proper resources to offer a stipend to the third vice chairs.